is so bad.
So much for your patience. We are here with Blaster Master Zero. My name is Maliv, and I will be your host for the next little while. Just a quick reminder about things going on here. We are doing a charity marathon known as Slurpathon, and we are here raising money for Extra Life, which raises funds for the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Proceeds go to the Alberta Children's Hospital Foundation. We've actually got some incentives going on right now. Just keeping people in the loop as we are trying to... Let's see, what are we trying to do here? We've got a bid war for some Havens couples genders. What gender do we want the couple to be? We've got the three standard options. We've got male to male, female to female, and male to female. And we are looking for any donations. We'll set whichever one of those in the lead. So if you would like to donate and pick your personal preference, all you got to do is enter in that donation command in chat, follow the link, make a donation, and let us know which you'd be preferring. With that all said and done, we do have a fabulous runner here, Tempest, with a fantastic game ready to show for us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Maliv, and hello, friends and fellow gamers. Yes, as mentioned, this is Blaster Master Zero. This game was officially a Nintendo Switch launch title, but since then has also found itself on other platforms as well. And for those that might be familiar with the Blaster Master series in general, it is a game that was developed by Sunsoft, and still very much is a series that is Sunsoft's. But Inti Creates, the folks that made Mega Man 9, Mega Man 0, the Azure Striker Gunvolt series, and all of that jazz, they reached out to them and said, hey, how about we work together to reboot the series? We'll help you out. We'll do the development and stuff. And yeah, basically the Blaster Master Zero trilogy was born. It's personally one of my favorite indie titles, or I guess you could say retro revivals, to have ever really spawned. And ever since I discovered gameplay of it back in the day, especially doing the demo on the Switch, which is still available for those that want to give it a shot, I kind of just fell in love with it. So getting to speedrun this game was kind of a given at some point or another. But yes, as Maliv mentioned, we have a bit of a interesting thing going on here. So I'm going to be running not as Jason Frudnick, the main character, but rather Azure Striker Gunvolt GV himself. So this is going to be the any percent category of that, and this can go pretty fast. This can actually be one of the very fast versions of any percent that involves a main story sort of thing, you know, excluding unlimited mode. But yeah, enough of that riffraff. We are just going to get things started, and time will begin once I gain control of the tank. So let's get things going, and we'll have that iconic recreation of the blasting off cutscene initiate once I select single player. So here we go. Three, two, one, go. Alright, so, for those that are familiar with the original Blaster Master game, the objective is to basically master two different types of gameplay. On one hand, you have the tank, which involves side-scrolling 2D platforming, and the other type is top-down dungeon crawling. You're going to see me swap between those two types a fair bit, but the overall idea is that this is essentially a Metroidvania, and I will have to collect certain power-ups in order to progress through certain things. In this case, you're going to see me get the first major upgrade for the tank, Sophia 3, which will serve to up the attack power of its entire weaponry. and make its overall weaponry a lot more capable of shredding through things that the normal pea shooter itself wouldn't be able to destroy. So right now, I'm going to just go straight to the first main dungeon of the game, because there are side dungeons, like with the original Blaster Master. The big difference is that there is usually one dungeon within a world each that does not really serve a whole huge purpose, aside from maybe recovering your HP, like having items to essentially refill things and whatnot. But otherwise, dungeons will either consist of the area's main boss or a sub-boss, either of which will grant the tank or the character an upgrade. Now, that would at least be the case if I was playing as Jason. As Gunvolt or any of the EX characters from the 4 DLC packs within this game, they do not have anything that they themselves can earn from such bosses, so the only upgrades we're really going to get will involve Sophia 3. But now we have entered the first main boss, which is Mother Brain, and no, you have not found yourself wrong warping into a Metroid game, but this is also a nod to the first world boss of OG Blaster Master as well. And I'm just going to try and set things up a little bit by utilizing Gunvolt's Azure Striker powers, the Dragon Sphere, and I'm going to have to insert one more to hopefully finish it off just like that. And yeah, that was a pretty good boss. So now I'm going to stand in the middle here, which automatically gives me the power-up because I was within the center of the room, which is where these rewards generally spawn. So having done so, I didn't have to waste a little bit of extra time, and we just went straight to the pickup message with the victory jingle bit, which it's different per character. So depending on who you're playing as, it'll be a slightly different jingle, which obviously for Gunvolt's case, it's after his character theme, I guess you could say. But we've now picked up the Hyper Shot, and this is, like I said, going to increase the attack power of Sophia 3 by a little bit, and also allow us to destroy that monstrous door mutant face thing that we just went through in order to get to the entrance to Area 2. Now, normally, I would also go out of my way to get another gun upgrade for Sophia 3, but that will not quite be the case here with Gunvolt. And the reason for that is because I believe it's the Crusher Shot, it's called, that would normally be required to break that little debris blocks, those little debris blocks right there. Not just give more attack power, but like, it's actually normally needed for that progressional stuff. But Gunvolt himself is able to break them on his own, both by using his pin gun, but also his flash field as well, which I should probably go ahead and explain that right away. So, EX characters generally have a bit of a different gameplay mechanic as compared to Jason himself. In GV's case, much like the Azure Striker Gunvolt series, he is someone whose firearm primarily serves to tag enemies, and then it allows his Azure Striker electricity powers to home in on the enemies and deal the major damage there. But the darts themselves, the pins, are still able to deal a little bit of damage, so it's not out of the question for me to mash to deal extra optimal damage that way. Now, one downside of relying on this to destroy blocks that the tank would otherwise be able to do if I got the Crusher Shot is I will have to have GV exit the tank a lot more than you would normally do for just about any other character. The good news, though, is that GV has quite a bit of mobility outside of the tank when it comes to things like vertical stuff, which you will see me make great use of here in Area 3. But because you don't have to use the Crusher Shot in order to break the blocks that block your progression to Area 3 here, then yeah, we just don't bother with Crabulus. Which is funny because one of my good pals, Scavenger216, a runner of this game, is known for that instance of GDQ where he was doing a BMZ NES race and the boss itself just somehow didn't spawn. And to this day, we are still wondering if that will ever be recreatable, but as far as we can tell, not quite. It's funny, though, and I just like to think of how we're just outright skipping Crabulus in a sort of similar way. But other than that, I'm going to be a little careful with my health here, because dying in Blaster Master is one thing, but here we don't have a life system as compared to the NES game, which is good. The daunting thing, though, is that this game features a series of checkpoints, and when you die, you will get sent back to the last one that you activated. These checkpoints also automatically save the game, and once you die, you've basically lost all of your progress until, like, whatever last checkpoint you were using and stuff like that. Oh, dang it. Okay, I thought I could get away with that. Oh, right, it has to involve that first. Yeah, okay, I was a little ahead of myself, but I had the right idea. So what you just saw me do was, as you can tell, Gunvolt basically plays out like a Mega Man character himself. He's basically a Mega Man Zero sort of character in a way, and because of that, you can do wall jumps, and I use that to skip having to go up the other way around, but the only reason I lost time there was I forgot that I needed to activate the conveyor belts in order to get the yellow crushers still going and all that jazz. So yeah, you're gonna see me utilize his extra little quirks of movement in ways that will allow me to just outright skip things. Now, I picked up a life up. Normally, I don't have to worry about that one, but because that's along the way and you don't really get penalized for taking that all that much, it's perfect for marathon safety, because having an extra point with the tank and the pilot's health is just really nice to have. But now we're going to go ahead and face Central Gear, and no need to fear, except maybe a little bit slightly, because this boss is pretty RNG heavy. So I'm going to give myself a little bit serious time as we try to take care of this as fast as possible. But that is not necessarily a good thing to start with from that angle, because as you can see, the eye is its weak point. And so I'm going to try and hope that the platforming setup that it gives me is a lot better than what things kicked off with. Because without a middle platform, with it on the low angle, that just really wasn't worth, like, taking at all. So yeah, another downside of avoiding the crusher shot outright is that I won't be able to deal as much damage as this fight would normally see me doing. So yeah, just not the best pattern, and this is, as Gunvolt, just slower in general. Not much I can really do there. So I'm just gonna hope for the best here as we continue this fight, and okay, that's not too bad. So the railgun attack, I can afford to take damage with, because you're not really taking more than a point of health with this thing's attacks overall. The pilot, though, when it's outside of the tank, usually takes a lot more damage than what the tank gets dealt to it and all that jazz. But yeah, that's a good fight in terms of us not dying. And now I'm going to showcase a nice little trick that will allow us to save even more time overall. So I'm going to go ahead into this pause menu with the select button. I'm going to save, and then I'm going to exit the game and reopen the file. And if this worked out as intended, you will see me respawn by the door. And there you go. Nice. So, oh, I forgot to split right there, by the way. It's a little bit of a late split, but that's perfectly fine. So that right there is a nice little manipulation of the checkpoint system, which, by saving the game and reloading the file, the game will put you back to the nearest checkpoint that you activated, but it will also keep all the stuff that you've collected in the game in mind. So I will still have the hover ability, which is what I needed in order to proceed on to the next area. And the hover ability is also a bit of a mainstay when it comes to Blaster Master tank action, so it's just good to have overall for the just the gameplay. It'd be hard to imagine it without that sort of thing. And so, yeah, now that we have that going on, we're going to be looking pretty good as far as things go in terms of just getting from point A to point B. But again, to reiterate, I will not have the best attack power going through the tank. So that is indeed one of the trade-offs of trying to play a very optimal Gunvolt. But as I mentioned, any percent with Gunvolt can be one of the fastest non-unlimited mode campaigns or speedruns that just about anyone can do. The current world record holder, which is TKY 619, if I got the numbers right, I know it's TKY, but yeah, the current world record holder actually got the current world record at UKSM, which I do believe they've been holding their event as well at current, so shout out to them. And it's sub 34 minutes, so that just comes to show how quickly skipping areas entirely can make this game go faster. Of course, mastering the speedrun is also a matter of knowing how to control your character well enough, and hopefully not dying. That's the biggest one right there. Alright, cool. We had just enough SP to clear that. The hover, like with sub-weapons, does take from your SP gauge, which is right next to your health, at least within the tank. And while the nice thing about it is that it does recharge 1 point over time, getting those refills can also be extra helpful when it comes to just wanting to keep going without much stoppage, if you will. But now we're going to go ahead and do the exact same checkpoint save manipulating sort of thing going on here in Area 4. The difference is, instead of getting an upgrade, I'm going to get a key which will be needed to unlock that locked passage that you saw me just, like, sort of approach for, like, just a moment. By the way, I should have taken a moment to retry, but I guess I just decided to go with it, but I'm looking pretty low on health. So a single shot, or like a single bit of damage will kill me, but luckily that will give me an extra point. So that's not too terrible, but I'm playing it really risky and for no good reason. I don't normally want to do that. Those bee enemies can be extra annoying because their stinger projectiles can snipe you like it's nobody's business, and that's just never fun. Alright, let's try and take it slow and steady. Okay, that was a little bit close. Okay, let's get over that. We still got 2 health to deal with, which is good. And I spoke too soon. Ooh, that was close. Entirely close. What the jeez. And... Oh god, I thought I was going to die there, then and there. Okay, so now I got to get out as Gunvolt in order to open up the sewage blockage that was preventing the water from flowing out. Okay, I'm actually going to take this safety maneuver now to just continue all the way through as Gunvolt, at least until I find a health pickup to give to the tank. One extra benefit of playing as an EX character from the DLC packs is they can summon their tank to their location as long as the icon is lit green, and it's normally where you would be able to communicate with your co-pilot Eve if you were playing as Jason, meaning that he doesn't have such a liberty going for him. So, again, just one of the nicer things about playing as a DLC character overall, as it really lets you not have to worry about certain things and all that good jazz. That wasn't quite where I wanted to go, but yeah, it was just a little bit more in this direction. And then I want to go this way. And not really too much else to say. So, I'm gonna hopefully not take much more damage than those 4 points. Make that 5. Okay. So I'm just gonna have to get that safety health over there again. Well, I say again, this is really just the first time I'm doing so, and yeah. Oh gosh, come on. Really, game? Trying to spite me a little. I'm not too pleased about that one. But now we're just gonna jump on over to Ribaroll here, or as Scav likes to call Frog the Fred. And this fight is, I'm gonna try and make it go as fast as possible, but again, with the lack of the Crusher shot, it won't go as fast as the other characters normally would, but that wasn't too bad. Yeah, it's generally an easy boss to go through. Hey, here we go. That's a Fred emote if I've ever seen one. Nice. I didn't even know that existed. Good stuff, Tenmachi. Alright, so now I gotta save the game once again. Exit. And if that worked, we will be right back at that checkpoint by the locked gate with the key still in tow. Almost forgot to split that again. Alright, cool. So now, normally this section would involve climbing up, or actually no, I think no, aren't I able to swim through this one again? Oh gosh, forgetting in the middle of a run, what kind of a gamer am I? Yeah, no, I'm just gonna take the way I would normally assume. Sometimes platforming in this game can be a little silly in that sometimes your character and swimming might not seem as simple as it would normally seem and all that jazz, but yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna still need the tank, technically, so yeah. Just gotta summon it right here. It is normally possible to call your tank to your current location by way of using the checkpoints, because once you activate them, all you gotta do is just press the Y button, or just whatever button is displayed on the thing, and that's about it, really. So now I'll get out as Gunvolt and destroy those blocks. I guess I really didn't need to call the tank. I guess I just felt like doing it. All's good there. Okay, but now he's starting to take damage. So we really should explain how Gunvolt himself works, because instead of having an SP meter or sub-weapon ammo or anything like that, he has the EP gauge, which is, I guess, energy points or something like that. It's basically what it would translate to, because that relates to his overall Septima power. Gunvolt cannot use his Azure Striker abilities if he does not have EP, and therefore I want to be mindful of that when utilizing my Flash Field, because, again, that deals a lot of helpful damage to the enemies and all that good stuff and all things that, you know, just make the speedrun speedier. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, I probably should have gotten out as Gunvolt. Whoops. See, that's another downside of outright skipping Area 5, because if this was just about any other character, I probably would have wanted to do Area 5. You will notice that Sophia is not capable of swimming, like, at all. It just can't. And that's why Area 5 rewards you with the swim gear. So that sort of thing is probably a little bit more preferred, typically, but because Gunvolt doesn't have to, and we can just break those blocks to get on over to Area 6 here, that's just what we do. That's, again, overall faster, and, you know, not having to deal with the Area 5 main boss hard shell, I guess, is also a good thing, too. Now, when you're seeing me take damage, but Gunvolt instead has those holograms going on, that is his Prevasion ability, and that's another carryover from typical Gunvolt gameplay, in that as long as he has enough EP to activate Prevasion, that is what he will do in place of taking traditional damage. The caveat is that it will not occur if he does not have enough EP, and I am very low on health for him right now, so I gotta be extra careful here. Otherwise, if he's in the middle of using his Flash Field, it won't work either. So, you know, give and take. A little trade-off situation. Your general gist of just balancing out an otherwise potentially broken mechanic that is super good for speeding through the gameplay and all that. Now, the overall... well, actually, I didn't have to do that. Whoops. Again, I keep forgetting these things. Sometimes I think I'm playing as Jason when I know I'm not. But yeah, Area 6 is another thing that Gunvolt's own gameplay just completely trivializes and then some. And for this very reason, the wall climb is once again going to allow us to progress through a vertical area, except this time in reverse. I am not only destroying those ice blocks, but also using the wall kick just to get into the main boss dungeon of Area 6. But this is also going to be one of the hardest bosses to deal with. Casually speaking, a lot of folks can probably agree that this particular mutant is just not fun at all. But playing as Jason, he's probably the most manageable. Ironic because the gun that allows us to do so is called the Striker Gun, which is literally based off of Gunvolt's own powers. But Gunvolt, on the other hand, he's going to have a bit of a harder time. I'm going to do a quick setup right here, but here we got Ancient Freeze. And the weak point that makes up the entire boss's health are all of those eyes, each taking a portion of it before each eye point is destroyed. Okay, so now, hopefully, there we go. That wasn't quite optimal per se, but it'll do for now. The reason that I had that exact timing to use the special skill Lux Caliber, the reason I take that is because it just gets rid of 4 eyes altogether and just, again, makes the boss ever so slightly easier. Actually, I'm going to take a retry just to refill my health there. Gunvolt has 3 special skills, though, by default. There is one that he is able to unlock as sort of a unique unlock within his campaign, that being Voltaic Chains, and trust me, if I had access to that through this speed run, through this point right now, Ancient Freeze would be gone as early as all the eyes just showing up and flashing off and all that, and just trying to freeze the floor. And that is probably one of the most satisfying feelings that any player could have with this boss, but not meant to be here. Alright, here we go. Let's try that again. So there's Lux Caliber, which has that giant electric sword just spewing straight in front of him and dealing damage to whatever is in its path. There's the Dragon Sphere, which you saw me use against Mother Brain in Area 1, and is good for dealing extra damage to whatever targets cross over its path. And then we have Galvanic Patch, which is capable of healing Gunvolt's health by a few blips. But, dang it. Yeah, unfortunately, the biggest downside of playing as Gunvolt is he has the lowest defense compared to any character within the game. So he will take a lot more damage than just about anybody else. And that will be the biggest catch-22, because a death here can be pretty costly if I happen to have made a lot of progress. Now, special skills, those cost SP points, which you are seeing as those like little golden icons. That's basically all you need to know about that, really. And they do recharge when I flash field things, which is extra nice, but other than that, I gotta be really careful now because it's in the danger zone. And so I'm actually gonna hand it on over to Millie to say any announcements if there's anything to be brought up. So let's go ahead with that.
I would be more than happy to share some things while you focus on what looks like a very, very difficult fight for yourself. So, I can let everybody know that Extra Life brings together thousands of gamers around the world to play games in support of their local Children's Miracle Network hospital. Since its inception in 2008, Extra Life has raised over 100 million USD for sick and injured kids. Funds raised to go to Alberta Children's Hospital as unrestricted funds. You might be shocked. You're like, what? Unrestricted? What does that mean? And I can be happy to tell you that this means that the hospital decides where and how to spend that money to ensure the dollars raised make the biggest impact possible. There's no us telling them that they can only make hot dogs with all the money we give them. They got to do whatever they want with them. Extra Life is a Children's Miracle Network hospital fundraising program that empowers the gaming community to make a difference in the lives of local kids. Participants fundraise year-round, including a 24-hour gaming marathon, an annual gaming tournament in early spring, and a weekend of tabletop gaming. On top of that, of course, we do have Slurpathon going on right now as a part of those series. If you were interested in maybe running your own thing, such as I am very much in my own life someday down the road, getting involved is as easy as signing up online at extra-life.org, asking your friends and family to donate, and pledging to play games in support of the Children's Miracle Network hospital of your choice. You can play from the comfort of your own home, playing any game you want. If you'd like to learn more on how you can play games to heal kids, visit extra-life.org. We do also have some incentives that we would like to see met. And if you'd be interested in hearing about them, I can share them right here and now. Oh my goodness, you did add in those incentives for the punch and don't punch. We got some bid wars going on for Haven. Yes, we've got a bid war going on for Haven where we have a couple of options for couple gender marrying types. And those options would be to have a male and female individual marry, a female and female individuals marry, or male individuals marrying, depending on what seems the most exciting to you, what might be the most fun and cool way for things to go. All you need is to make a donation and let us know in that donation where you would like to put that money, and we can get that set up. There's many more incentives down the road as well, so keep your eyes open. And if you'd like, just keep an eye out. Got a lot of other things coming down the road. If you can't decide, you can always offer to give it to our runner as well and let them pick down for what they would prefer too, because I don't know about you, but Tempest seems like a pretty cool dude. I'd love to see what he would like to put that money towards as well. So if you donate and you don't know where to put it, just let our friends pick.
I'm always down for some runner's choice, honestly. And by the way, big shout out to the Game Bakers, that being the dev of Haven. I still remember when the game was just being brought up, like I had just learned about it through the Limited Run Games physical version announcement, and it looks cool on its own as it was, but the idea of them adding in a later on update of you being able to choose the genders of K and U, the main couple and protagonists of the game, is just one of those very unexpected but absolutely appreciated details that I myself am just like, that's a really nice way to sort of allow people to replay the game which way they want it. Like, it's really cool. And they also got 2 other voice actors to fill in the roles of those alternative gender-bent versions of the characters, too. So just some really fantastic stuff overall, and I'm all for that. So yeah, just, again, shout out to the Game Bakers for that. Thank you.
Indeed. If I could actually make a reminder as well, we do also have a goal to try to get $150 for Gunvolt X so that we can unlock level 20 songs. So we cannot forget about that. We especially cannot forget about that, as those are just more cool songs, more exciting, more challenging songs, and seeing our participants, our runners, just show off just how capable they are and how cool some of these game songs and mechanics can be. It's always good to be able to get those goals, and if we can hit that, that would be super exciting.
Okay, almost there. Come on. Oh gosh. Whew! I was so
Nicely
scared that I was
done.
gonna die. Oh, thank heavens. Yeah, like I said, that is the worst fight to ever have to deal with. And Gunvolt, despite the fact that his powers inspired the weapon that allows Jason to really make this boss look like nothing, he himself has a hard time. It's so weird. But admittedly, the developer Inti Creates, when working on the DLC characters, they kind of took things a little bit safely, because there are a lot of things about Gunvolt that could have made the transition into this game with his gameplay that surprisingly didn't. For instance, his gun, the Cerberus, is normally something that can tag up to 3 targets total, but you can also tag the same target up to 3 times, which is also pretty standard for how GV's tag system works in his own games. But for some reason, in Blaster Master Zero, he can only tag a target 1 time. He can still tag a maximum of 3 targets, yes, but that in itself is one of the reasons why his damage from his overall kit is not as effective as it would normally be in a typical Gunvolt game. On top of that, the Dragon Sphere, having debuted in Gunvolt 2 as GV's own appearance here, is indeed based off of his Gunvolt 2 outing. That does not require any skill points. That's normally 0 skill points, and The only thing that prevents you from using it again and again is that each special skill normally has a cooldown in his own games, but here they just decided to give it a point for a cost, and normally the special skill that he starts out with that requires a single point, the offensive special skill for that, is his Astrosphere. So, yeah, there were a lot of decisions of stuff that didn't quite make the cut, and I'm not entirely sure why, but one of these days I'd love to ask Inti that, because where Gunvolt walks in some areas, his rival Copen runs in his DLC for Blaster Master Zero 2. They only released 2 DLC packs for that game, but Copen and Empress really brought a lot more to the table, and it's all the better for it too, especially when Copen is probably the fastest character in general to run for that game. So big shout out to just the future games in general, because yeah, this game is one of a trilogy, so there's a Blaster Master Zero 2 and 3 as well, and all of those games are available for purchase on Steam, so PC in other words, as well as PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 via backward compatibility, the Nintendo Switch, which again this game was a launch title for. BMZ1 was also available on the 3DS, but sadly there's no way to purchase that anymore, at least not legally, and sadly this game never really had a physical version either for that handheld. But then we also have the Xbox version, which is what I'm playing on, and that was the final one, the final platform that BMZ needed to get on, and they did so as a way to sort of hype up the release of BMZ 3, which that game was the first to get announced for this system of this system family rather. And it was like a really nice way to sort of get things going. Gunvolt 3 had the same thing where Azure Striker Gunvolt 1 and 2 would get released for the Xbox a couple of weeks before Gunvolt 3 finally happened, and yeah, it was such an interesting time. But other than that, we are now making our way back to Area 3 because we've collected the wall drive. And unlike the original NES game, where the only way to activate it was you had to be on the ground and then press the direction against the wall to have the tank go drive up or around or whatever, solids and whatnot. Here you just need to hold down the trigger buttons, which is a lot more convenient and a lot more player friendly, I would say. Because it sure does help to have more buttons on your controllers as compared to back then. But the wall drive will also be necessary to make our way over to Area 7. And then once we take care of that boss, it'll be straight forward to Area 8. And that will be the end of the run once we take care of the final boss in Area 8. So not too much run left, but we still got a decent bit of gameplay, especially if those levels or those areas really play it dirty on me. Which can happen because Area 7... just to get that explanation out of the way right now, it's sort of a stealthy take on the volcano area. Area 7 in the original game was a lava volcano area, but here they added in a few stealth-like elements, particularly searchlights and enemies with cone of sights, or sight cones, whatever you call those. And we just want to consider stealth optional. That's about it. That's all there is to it. Of course, it can come at the detriment of my health and overall safety of the gameplay and things that would naturally spring from such. But yeah. At this rate, I'm just happy that we're done with Ancient Freeze, especially after that tragic death that I had during what was otherwise a rather close fight. And yeah, not too much in terms of our current gameplay, so I will say this game normally does go for $10, if I recall correctly, and it does regularly go on sale for the Steam major sales as well. But it also gets a healthy amount of discounts from time to time whenever Nintendo or Sony has stuff going for their systems. Xbox, not as much, but Inti finally decided to give that a go and had an Xbox sale going on at one point this year, which was what spurred me to get Blaster Master Zero 2, as I only had 2 and 3, 02 and 03 beforehand, but it was well worth the wait, especially in the pursuit of trying to save money to game good. As for the DLC packs, those go for $2 each, assuming I didn't get that pricing incorrect. A nice thing about Inti Creates was they did make the DLC packs free when it came to the Switch, I believe, for the first week that they were out, which I do believe was actually like right alongside the game. Yeah, I'm gonna just take that death because I totally forgot that I didn't have to do that Searchlight section. Puts me back at the beginning, but not too much progress lost. No big deal. So the game itself and DLC packs are very affordable. Very much so. And if you're wondering who the other DLC characters are for Blaster Master 01, so we had GV here, particularly Gunvolt 2, but then we also had Ikoro from the Galgun series, and then there's Shantae from the, well, Shantae series, of course, and there's the cerulean-clad treasure hunter himself, Shovel Knight. And I know that Inti Creates must have done that as a way to thank Yacht Club Games for their assistance with the Gunvolt Striker pack with its original 3DS incarnation. After all, they also gave Shovel Knight a guest boss appearance, which you can do if you are playing the Switch or 3DS version and happen to scan his amiibo, which is a really nice thing, like a really nice detail. Not as detailed of a fight as it probably could have been, but still just a really nice nod overall, and one that I personally appreciate, so yeah. And as we are going through the rest of this volcano area, that was another instance where I had to use GV's flash field to break open those blocks that otherwise Sophia would have normally been able to take care of by this point. And that was just a little too reckless of me to do without thinking that plan through. No big deal, though. We're just moving on. And as you noticed with that searchlight that I activated earlier, it spawns those caterpillar enemies, but bulkier versions, slightly bulkier versions of them, which is always annoying to have to deal with on its own. But even more unfortunate is the fact that the shutter doors that close as a result of being caught by that stuff, they don't open up until you've taken care of the caterpillars. This is what we normally do with just about any other character, but because GV's tank strength is not optimal, it's not worth it. And that was also an unfortunate death. So now this is going to be really interesting. We're going to have to see how this all plays out. I don't expect to be over the estimate. Not yet, anyway. But if you think this is a little bit troublesome, you ain't seen nothing until we entered Area 8. That is where the real gatekeeper, the real proverbial gatekeeper of BMZ goes, because that is where difficulty obviously ramps up for what is supposed to be the lair of the final boss. So, yeah, kind of expected, but if this does manage to go off pretty well, I'm going to be surprised. Because there is still a lot of time I can save with this category as a runner. Like, I am nowhere near a top-notch runner, nor do I consider myself it, like, at all. So the possibility of seeing a PB is there, but considering the amount of resetting and dying that happened in an unexpected way, I wouldn't be surprised if I do happen to go over my PB, so Again, it's all just going to depend on Area 8. And that's... And then also what's about to come up here, because if you thought that there wasn't enough stealth to be had with the difficulty here in Area 7, this is where things really get tough. So, these are sentry enemies, and this is actually the second variant you would naturally encounter through the game, as there are the normal blue enemies. And those just simply try to go after you, but the red enemies, as you just saw right there, those are security guards that once they catch sight of you, whether by you stepping into their cone, whether you hit them, or even just damage boost off of them, all of those red sentries in the room will converge on you and make you suffer for it. Now, luckily, I did not activate them just yet, because I guess Prevasion didn't quite count. Ooh, but this is going to be pretty close. Whew! Okay, cool. So now I'm just going to let my EP recharge. Give myself a couple of heals. And if you're feeling a little bad for me, don't. Because we try to take things recklessly with that section anyway, so it's not all that different from what I would have been doing as Jason. But now we've got the Skeleton Boss, which is a rather iconic enemy with the Blaster Master series, especially a bit of a fan favorite with the developers and presumably the fans here in BMZ. And this boss, this particular boss, you would normally have to play it as Jason, where you would have to go all the way up there to that switch to activate the elevator that we left our Sophia tank on. And by the way, you can skip a cutscene, but it's not really necessary here. And then the rest of this fight is just grabbing the tank and trying to decimate the boss's health, and that's about it. Alright, cool. And now that we have cleared Area 7, we have opened the way to Area 8. And for the sake of safety right at the very beginning, I'm going to activate that checkpoint and immediately retry to refill my health. So not only do we have those caterpillars from earlier that those sentries were spawning, but we also got these gooey blocks, which, again, is an obstacle that only Gunvolt right now will be able to clear out. But on top of that, some of them with the dark circular centers can spawn a sort of, I guess, bacteria cell enemy to just come out of the thing whenever you destroy those. And I might have to in order to proceed. So there are many ways to take damage overall, but right now just taking it a little bit safer by playing as Gunvolt and not having to switch as much is not the worst way of handling things, but oh, that was very close. But I'm not out of the woods just yet. So now I'm going to call over the tank, and it won't be at full health, but the nice thing about getting back in the tank for a little bit is that once Gunvolt pops out, he will be fully healed, and this applies to all pilots within Blaster Master Zero on the whole. As well as the later games too, of course. Alright, gonna do another retry here so that we can have GV and the tank at full health. Oops, that's not what I wanted. But yeah, Skeleton Boss was originally known for being like the cover art enemy that was on the box art of OG Blaster Master. Which, fun fact, in Japan it was known as Chowakusei Senki Metafight, and it was supposed to be a sort of slightly different series, but it didn't quite catch on for the Japanese audiences. So when releasing it here in the US as Blaster Master, they made a few changes to the overarching plot, such as the main character being Jason. him having a pet frog named Fred, which, funnily enough, this Jason is also looking for, and all that stuff about destroying mutants and all that jazz, whereas in Metafight, we are on the planet that is named Sophia. The tank is called the Metal Attacker, and as Kane Gardner, we have to destroy the alien mutant-like Invem invaders that threaten Planet Sophia's prosperity. Now, this is the one notable exception of having to enter what would otherwise be seen as a side dungeon within the overall any percent category of BMZ. Because this side dungeon, while featuring a mini-boss, and you will know for this for having a different boss theme entirely, it holds the last key that we will be collecting, which will be needed to unlock the locked door that... Oh, that's unfortunate. Bars the way to the Mutant Lord's lair. So let's try to catch up back there. And I will have to take on the Antibody Cell boss at the end of this, so let's just see how that all goes when I get there, because it's not the worst thing around, but it is going to be a little bit more I'd say it's another boss that's just a little bit more manageable as Jason. Oh, really? I thought I had enough health for that. I really did. Alright.
If you'd like, I can read a couple of things.
Oh, yes.
That should hopefully help you focus down on getting through this part, because this looks like another fancy, fun dance.
It's really not all that bad. It's just the idea of me completely ignoring those red enemies, which are upgraded versions of the Orbiter fellas that, when blue, they just lock on to either a vertical or horizontal axis, but in the red enemies' cases, they go for horizontal and vertical, as you can tell, and they are persistent as heck. But yeah, no, go ahead, because even though I'm just about reaching Antibody Cell, yeah, let's hear some things. Let's hear some things indeed.
Alright. So, let's see what we can do. We can talk about how Extra Life brings together... Extra Life brings together thousands of gamers around the world to play games in support of their local children's Miracle Network hospitals. Since its inception in 2008, Extra Life has raised over $100 million for sick and injured kids. Funds raised go to the Alberta's Children's Hospital as unrestricted funds. This means the hospital decides where and how to spend that money to ensure the dollars raised make the biggest impact possible. If anybody is looking to donate, it is as easy as entering that exclamation donate command in chat, and you will be set up with a nice handy dandy link. You can also check out the incentives by going !incentives. And we've actually got a few incentives going on right now that would be super fantastic if we could reach them. Right now we are trying to get towards our goal of, let's see, $150 for the level 20 songs for Sound Voltex. And we need every single dollar we can get to make that happen. If anybody would like to donate to support, it would make a huge difference. As a reminder, as well, always too, if you unfortunately we live in a world where sometimes it's a little difficult to donate. Maybe you can't find the funds to, and that's perfectly okay. But if you'd like to support Slurpathon, anyways, you tell your friends, share this link, talk about this event, and get other people involved. We can always use more eyes on us, help get more energy going for this cause, get more people to watch and enjoy these really cool runs, much like this one, and it can make a huge difference at the end of the day, especially when we want to try to meet these incentives and goals. Yeah, but if we can try to get to those level 20 songs for... Hold on, I'm being very disoriented. For Sound Voltex, that would be phenomenal, as we do have that coming up sometime from now. Let's see. We're about... Yeah, that's coming down later tonight. We've got a few hours to go before we actually reach there, but it's a lot of time, but the sooner we get it, the happier I'm sure that our runner would be to know that they get to enjoy that experience.
Absolutely so. And just in general, rhythm showcases are always cool to see, especially when we get to have the folks in question do the harder stuff. And Slurpathon is certainly no stranger to having some amazing rhythm showcases, so let's indeed see if we can't make that incentive work, folks. I'd sure as heck say that if anyone were to give me runner's choice right now, I would not be against putting my choice toward that at all. But here we have the final boss right here. So that's the Mutant Lord, or rather the Underworld Lord, as of its current form. And ooh, this is already looking just a tad dicey. But one nice quirk about Gunvolt's EP gauge in this game is that even in the midst of a cutscene, it will still recover no matter what. So that's the nice sort of, I guess, extra little bit that normally doesn't happen in a Gunvolt game. If I, last I checked anyway. And yeah, phase 1 down. It was a combination of trying to hit it with darts, with the flash field, and get as much damage as possible with the Dragon Sphere. But now we are entering the final phase of the fight, and unfortunately I will be going a little over my estimate, but here we have the multi-dimensional Overlord, and time will be once its HP reaches 0. So let's see what color I get. That's not generally good for Gunvolt's case. Maybe for Jason, but man, not so much here. Also, I have to be extra careful, because if it wasn't, as it were, with a final boss, if I suddenly die to this phase, I gotta do the first one all over again. So yeah, that would be a little inconvenient. I think I'm gonna just focus any resource I get with SP toward Galvanic Patch for the time, because, yeah. One cool little detail is that Gunvolt is capable of strafing, much like Jason can. The unfortunate part about that for him... Oh, dang, ran into him. Alright. I'm sure we can still fit in another attempt. This hopefully won't take much longer now that I hopefully got my ducks in a row here, but... yeah, oddly enough, whereas Jason strafes when you hold the right shoulder button, GV is holding the, A button, or at least in my setup's case anyway, which, I think that's interchangeable, possibly. I think it's whatever is the jump button. I don't know why that is, as one could have probably imagined a shoulder button is typically the better option for that, but because the function is tied to your average jump, you wouldn't normally want to rob yourself of that with the face button, because GV's flash field is the right shoulder button, so if you try to assign it to the A button, then the consequence of that would be you would now likely have to jump by pressing the right shoulder button, which, hey, fair is fair, I guess. I might have to try that at some point and see if my hands would actually better play as a result of it, I guess, is the right sentence to be said. But yeah, again, time will be once the multi-dimensional Overlord's health depletes completely. Which is looking pretty soon at this point, so we are having a much better fight than earlier. Yeah, just some slight apologies here, some slight sincere apologies for going over the estimate, but thankfully it wasn't too egregious as what I feared. And time. And that, my friends, is Gunvolt any percent for Blaster Master Zero. Like I said, a really cool character to work with when you know how to work him best, and one of the fastest any percents that this game can present. And just a really nice time, especially if you're a Gunvolt fan like myself. Of course, it does have its quirks. It does have things that probably could have been handled better if Inti decided to give him his other different types of pin guns and some of his other skills, but it's otherwise manageable as long as you know what you're doing. And yeah, I guess also the one thing that makes the most sense to showcase right after Mega Man 9. So there you go.
And don't sweat going over the estimate. That's why it's an estimate and not a confident. We don't know exactly how well we're all gonna do. I mean, it is a marathon. Things are gonna be very inconsistent. You only get that one run to make the difference. But yeah, that was a really fantastic run to watch. Thank you so much for showing us that, or for showing us the run of Blaster Master Zero with Gunvolt in any percent. Coming up next, we are going to be running Axiom Verge 2, going to be ran by Seraphin.
Which is going to be really cool.
Absolutely.
If I could make a quick plug before we transition, I do want to give a quick shout out to the Blaster Master speedrunning community. If you'd like to learn any of these speedruns for the entire franchise, just go to any of the leaderboards, and the link to our Discord should be there. And just a major shout out to the folks that did all this running before I eventually jumped on as the first ever Xbox runner. So shout out to them, shout out to Inti Creates, shout out to Sunsoft, and just shout out to gaming in general. But thanks again to Slurpathon for having me, and until we next meet, ciao, Michi.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned.